I'd appreciate it, only because it gives me something to work towards and to look at and to try and get a feel from the audience. If you choose not to, that's okay too. Just let me do this right. Okay, we're all on mute at the moment, because obviously people will probably join us as I'm talking. So you're all very welcome to today's session, to the Republic of Work Lunch and Learn session. I'm sure some of you have attended these before, and I'm delighted to be in Cork, even though I'm not there personally. Hope I'll get there one of these days. These sessions are held every Tuesday. They're held every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. They're a webinar format, and there are a variety of topics that are discussed that all businesses can learn from. So it's a terrific idea. And just to let you know that you can find upcoming events on the What's On section at Republic of Work. So that's republicofwork.com. So my name is Clodagh Walsh, and I'm your host for today. So before we get down to business, as it were, let me tell you just a little bit about myself. I'm a former broadcast journalist. I've spent most of my career in the newsroom in RTE as a newscaster, both on radio and television. Also as a reporter with the Week in Politics. I spent a lot of time down in the Oireachtas unit, and I worked also as a sub-editor on the Radio 1 desk, and I've reported for Morning Ireland. And then most recently, I was presenting It Says in the Papers on Morning Ireland. So last year, I started my own business called Speakeasy Communications, just very slowly, and then I decided to launch it officially, as it were, in January, and then by March, well, we know what happened. So I'm sure a lot of you probably found yourselves in the same situation. Everything closed down, and it closed down very quickly, and we've been managing to get through it, and I hope everybody has been doing that and that you're all staying very safe and very well. So the top line of my website, my new website, which has just gone live since the other day, it reads that the most powerful presentation tool you have is you. And I absolutely believe that. You are the front desk of your business. And you know that some people are natural communicators, some people are natural leaders, but they are skills that you can learn. I remember reading somewhere that, you know, Warren Buffett said it really pays to invest in yourself. And he tells the story about when he was starting out as a young man, that he went and he did a public speaking course. And he always says that in all his life and all the things that have happened to him, that it's the best $100 that he ever spent. So it is important to invest in yourself. It's important to invest in your business because, as the ad says, you're worth it. Now, good communication skills, as all of you know who are here today, is absolutely essential for your business, whether you're dealing with staff, you're dealing with clients, marketing, potential investors, the whole gamut. And also those skills are very important to help you to promote and also to market your business. So every time that you present, so whether you're talking to clients, whether maybe you're introducing somebody at an event, or whether it's a public speaking engagement, every time that you present, your style of presentation, your tone, your body language, your vocabulary, everything that you do is communicating something about you or your product. So your job as a presenter or as a speaker is to make your audience feel comfortable. Because if your audience feels comfortable, then they're going to listen to what you're saying and they'll take in what you're saying. You know yourself that if you go to an event or even a play or a show, and if somebody loses their lines or somebody fluffs up or something happens, it makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable and you think, oh God, I really wish it was okay for them. You know, just please let it be okay. So therefore you're not listening. So your job is to make the audience feel comfortable, because if you're comfortable, you're confident with what you're saying, and they trust you, well, then they're going to listen to you and they're going to engage more. So that really is all about preparation. And you'll probably hear that word quite a lot over the next 20 minutes or so. But the one thing that I will say to you about presenting is that there's no one right way to give a presentation or to give a talk, but that there are lots of ways that can make it better. Everybody has their own style, and that's what you have to try and work with your own style and work with developing your own style. And also to remember, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes we get caught up with things being absolutely perfect, or it has to be right before I do it. It doesn't have to be, but what it does have to be is as professional as you can possibly make it. And the one thing I will say to all of you today is to be yourself. That's one of the best ways to engage with your audience, is to be yourself and to be honest. And I know for a lot of you, like me, this is the first time that you're probably working from home. And it's the first time also that many of you may find yourself in front of a camera in a professional capacity. And when I'm talking camera, I'm talking Zoom. So what I thought we'd do today is just take a look at that. So, because that's where we find ourselves right now, because we're on Zoom meetings, we're on Skype calls to clients or to staff or to distributors. And also for those of you who may be lecturing or teaching, you're not back in a classroom yet or in a lecture hall. So you're having to do some of your work like this. So I'm going to go through just very briefly some do's and don'ts. First, a camera like this, it's not natural. In fact, it can feel a bit strange. It can feel a bit odd. And you have to remember that when you're presenting to camera like this, it's like having the viewer just 3 feet in front of you. The focus is on me. The focus is on you. I have nowhere to hide here, and the camera has nothing else to look at except me. And it's going to pick up on everything. It's going to pick up on whether I'm nervous, if I'm not relaxed, that, you know, mad thing I keep doing with my hair, whatever it is, or the funny thing that you do with your mouth. It picks up on everything. But on the flip side, what it also picks up on is your passion and your enthusiasm for the subject that you're talking about. And that's really important. And that's really, really important for engaging with your audience like this. You need to look them in the eye. You need to be looking at that camera. And, you know, we've been doing this Zoom or whatever platform you use for a while now, but I'm still really surprised by the amount of people who don't use this frame properly. I was at a meeting recently and there was chief executive, he was giving a talk at the meeting, and he spent his entire time like this. Yes, the figures are fantastic and we're delighted, and we managed to get through the pandemic. I couldn't believe it. He didn't look once at his clients, he didn't frame himself properly, and there was no connection. There was no eye connection. If you don't do that, then you're not going to engage. You're not going to engage your audience. So sometimes a lot of people will still sit too close to the camera, or they'll sit right back and down here. So you have this big gap. And what that does is that's distracting for your audience. So if you want to engage in your audience, you want to have the least amount of distraction possible when you're doing it on camera, because you want them to listen to you. So just stay in the frame. You don't have to say center. You know, you can be at the side, you can be over here, you can be back a bit, but stay within that frame. And also just to use natural light as well, sit facing the window if possible, because if you sit with your back to the window, you're going to be backlit. So you may need to put a light here on your desk so you're lit, or if you're sitting side onto your window, we're going to see a really bright part of your face and then dark. So they're really only small things to think about. But I'm telling you these because, again, it comes back to distraction and about engaging with the audience. You don't want your audience to be distracted. You need to keep the focus. You need to keep the focus on you. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's lovely to be able to do this. It's brilliant and technology is incredible, but there is nothing beats being in a room with an audience. Nothing, hands down. Your audience or your staff or your colleagues, you know that because we've been working like this for a long time now. And I miss that communication, and I miss being in the room. And being in the room as well, you feel the room. I can see you. That's why it's important for me to see you in this format, but I can't feel you. You could be bored out of your mind. You could be interested. You could be saying, she's not too bad or whatever, but I can't feel it. I can't gauge it. And it's very hard to do that in camera. Because, for example, if Aileen asks me a question, if I'm in a room and Aileen asks me a question, I'm going to lean into Aileen, or I'm going to walk down into the auditorium and go to have a chat with her. And then I'm going to walk over to Caroline and have a chat with her. And I'm going to use the whole room, and I'm going to use my body and good body language. I can't do that in front of a camera. So what do you do in front front of a camera? What do you do to try and engage your audience? Well, there's some body language because you can see my face, obviously. And I like to a large group like this, I like to stand when I'm presenting because I gesticulate quite a lot. But also I breathe properly. I feel more confident when I'm standing, because sometimes when you're sitting, everything kind of goes in, you know, so you need to be, if you're open and standing, then people see that. They see that you're open and you're friendly. And also smile. I know, seems obvious, doesn't it? But smile and make eye contact. You'd be surprised at how many presenters don't do it, whether it's in an auditorium or whether it's on camera. And also, you know, when you're presenting, strong, positive body language, that becomes an essential tool in helping you to build your credibility, to express your emotions, and to connect with your listeners. So again, how do you bring that energy to the camera? Yes, some body language, you know what? It's all about the voice. You have to keep it interesting and engaging. So you need to think about things like tone, pace, warmth, empathy, pause. Don't be afraid of the pause. We don't use it often enough, because what does a pause do? A pause creates anticipation in the same way as a change of pace creates focus. So I'm going to just switch for one moment to gallery. And if you have your videos on, I would like to ask you a question. Bear with me while I do this, so then I can see you. Oh, we don't have lots of videos on. If you would like to turn your video on for half a second, it would be brilliant. It would be great. Thanks, Ronan. Thank you. Just for a tick. Okay. Grand. All right. That's great. Some of you don't want to. That's fine too. Hands up. How many people like the sound of their own voice? Stop it. Oh, good man, Tom. Excellent. Anybody else? Jimmy? Excellent. Anybody else? Do you know, you might have heard me, so I'll just ask you again. How many people like the sound of their own voice? Oh, that's shocking. Oh, Kathy. Good. Excellent. That's not good. I have to tell you that. I'm going back to speaker view now for a moment. You know what? You have to learn to love the sound of your own voice. Oh, right. Okay. I'm just looking at somebody. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I got distracted by something coming into chat there. You need to learn to love the sound of your own voice, and I'll tell you why. Your voice is an amazing, absolutely amazing instrument. If you think of all the different ways that you use it every day, if you think about how it changes when you tell somebody that you love them, when you're angry, when you're sad, when you're happy, when you sing, when you talk to the dog, and I say that because I actually have a voice which I talk to my dog, but there you go. What happens is those movements and that change in your voice, you think of the tone, the pausing, the passion, the excitement, you have all of that range in your voice. And you need to think of that when you're presenting. You need to think of that range that you have in your presenting. Because what you're aiming for is, you're aiming for a natural voice. You're aiming for a voice that's clear and that's easy to listen to. And you know, whether you're an experienced presenter or whether you're just starting out, the most important thing is to connect with your audience. And the best way to do that is to be yourself, to use your own voice, to be honest with your audience. And if you're enthusiastic and you have a passion for what you're talking about, trust me, your audience, they will respond. So what I'd like to talk to you about now is just about preparing your presentation and thinking about what your audience needs when you're preparing your presentation. So when you sit down to write it, you need to ask yourself, what's the key message or the points, the 3 points, mind you, that I want my audience to take away? You know, what do I want my audience to feel? What do I want them to understand? Or maybe what do I want them to do? You may want them to do something when I finish speaking. So those questions help you focus on your message, and to get it, you know, when you're clear about what you want to say, that also helps you. It helps to increase your own confidence when you're speaking to a group. And also the thing to remember is that you're writing for the spoken word. It's, you're not writing for somebody to read it, you're writing for somebody to hear it, to listen to it. And that's why it's really, really important for you to practice out loud before you do a presentation or a speech or an introduction or whatever. And there's lots of reasons for that. But one reason is you get used to the sound of your own voice. But the other thing is, when you practice, you'll think to yourself, all right, that's way too complicated. I need to make that simpler, or that sentence is too long, or that's too short, or what was I thinking, or I need to put more emphasis on this, or I've repeated myself 94 times. That's why it's important to practice and to hear yourself out loud. And also when you're practicing, then you're hearing the rhythm of your voice and the tone that you're bringing to your presentation. And what I will say to you as well is, please, please, please don't leave it until the last minute to write your presentation. I mean, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you put that pressure on yourself? But also, you're not giving yourself a good chance, and you want to be the best that you can be at whatever it is you're going to do. So give yourself time. Give yourself time when you're writing. Even start it, put down a couple of sentences, a couple of words, a couple of ideas, walk away from it, leave it sit there for a couple of hours, for a day, a week, and come back to it. And then you have something to work with. In terms of writing, I would say keep your writing simple and clear. Be human. Everybody loves a story. You can include a good human story in there, maybe something about yourself. It works. It just works. Keep your sentences short. Don't use 10 words when you can use one. I am guilty sometimes of that. And also remember that when you're talking to a group, some of the group English may not be their first language. So you need to take that into consideration as well. So you need to be clear and concise, or you may be talking about something, about material that's quite complex, and that can be challenging to get across to somebody as well. So again, I would go back to clear and concise, and please avoid jargon if at all possible, because jargon is what alienates your audience. It won't engage your audience. So just explain something simply as you can. And also think of the end of your presentation. Have a nice, good finish to the end. Often people don't think about that. And also it's the first thing that your audience will remember before they go back to think about other things you said. So you could finish with a story, or maybe the message at the top of your presentation, bring it down and finish with that. Or you can just say, in conclusion, this is what I want to say. You can flag up that that's the end of your presentation. So we've spoken about voice and how important your voice is. So what I want to do for a moment is talk about breath, because what supports your voice is your breath. And if you don't have breath, well, then you don't have voice. It's really, really important that you're breathing properly. So bear with me for one moment. I'm going to go back to gallery view again. I'm going to ask you to do something for me. So can you just put your hands across, you can't see me, but just put your hands across your stomach for me. Just for a moment, just relax, put your hands across your stomach, okay? And take a nice deep breath in and just hold it and let it out again, okay? Just a nice deep breath in, hold it and let it out again. When you did that, did you pull your tummy in, maybe your shoulders raised a little bit? Yes or no? No? Yes, there's some yeses in there. No. Oh, Aileen. Okay, let me tell you, that breath is not good for talking, because that breath, you're going to get caught here. Let me explain. When you breathe, when you're speaking as well, it's like an athletic use of your voice if you're speaking all the time. But if you have that breath where you've pulled your tummy in and your shoulders go up a little bit, that means that you're talking from here. And what's going to happen is you're going to get caught. You're not going to have enough breath to keep speaking. And sometimes maybe if you hear people speak and they're, in the middle of their presentation, and then you hear, and they're going on to the next sentence, and then they go on, I'm exaggerating slightly, they go on to the next sentence. It's because they're caught. They don't have enough breath. So the other people know that when you put it here and you took a nice deep breath in, well then your stomach rises, your rib cage expands, and you have all that lovely breath to support your voice and to be able to talk properly. So this is where you breathe from. It's all those intercostal muscles you should be using. So that's really, really That's really important, and it's a technique that you should practice if you can. And I suppose part of it as well is because if you're at the gym or you go to classes, your teacher says, hold in your core. So we're used to sucking everything in, but that's no use if you're going to be talking or presenting. You need to breathe properly and breathe from your abdomen. And you'll also find that that's something that's going to help you if you get a bit nervous when you're presenting. I mean, if some people, lots of people actually, most people find presenting can be, it can be difficult to, and it can be hard to calm those nerves and to stay relaxed. And so when it comes to nerves, the thing about nerves is just acknowledge, yes, I am nervous. It seems a bit counterintuitive, but it's not, because if you acknowledge that you're nervous, you're not going to get any more nervous. You'll remain a bit nervous, but that's okay. We need to be a bit nervous. We need adrenaline to help to drive us forward. So the goal is never to completely eliminate the nerves, because by and large that won't happen, but it's just to manage them effectively. And so one way of doing that is breath. So go back to the breath again. So again, it's if you take that nice deep breath in on a count of 3, hold it, and then let it out on a count of 3. And any of you who do yoga, practice yoga or mindfulness, will be aware of this technique. It's really good before you go on to present. You might stand at the side of the stage, give yourself 2 minutes, nice deep breath, calm yourself, and then on you go. And also what helps is that technique, if you can build that up to 10, to begin to take the breath in for a count of 10, hold it for a count of 10, and let it out for a count of 10. That helps to build up all those muscles so that you're breathing properly, so that you can give a good presentation. Holding it for 10 and letting it out for 10 is quite hard. So you just do it slowly, and you build it up slowly. What I would say to you as well, before you go on to give a presentation, and some of you may be used to giving presentations, it's a good idea to have a routine before you go on, just a little something that you do instead of coming in and launching straight into it. If you think of actors or you think of athletes, they warm up. Well, actors can be quite, superstitious, so they have all kinds of things that they may do before they go on. But the athlete just doesn't rock up and decide, I'm going to run this race. They have a routine and that they warm up. So that's a good idea to get into the habit of doing that. So it may be that breathing exercise, it may be visualizing how you're going to talk to your audience. All of those kind of things help just to calm you and steady you before you go on to speak. And when you walk up and before you speak as well, and before you engage with your audience, just take a bit of time, look at the audience. Again, we're talking about smiling, about looking at the room, and take your time and ease yourself into it before you start. The whole thing is that you really want to be able to present confidently and clearly, and to enjoy it as well if you can, dare I say, enjoy it. So, to do that properly and to engage with your audience properly, that takes work. It does take work. Preparation is absolute key. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. Don't go into it without being prepared, because you won't enjoy it, your audience won't enjoy it, and they won't want to hear you the next time around. So preparation is key, and also practice is key. Consistency in that practice as well. I mean, spoken here this lunchtime, we've spoken about the importance very briefly of body language and of your voice and of your breath and of your script. They're only some of the things that go together to make a good presentation and to help you engage properly with your audience. So what I suggest you do is don't try and do all of those, just take one of them. Take breath or script and think, okay, the next time I have to go out to speak, I'm actually going to really think about this. I'm going to prepare properly and I'm going to practice and add that into your presentation. And the next time, take another one and add it. So layer it, just build it up, and you just do it slowly. Just do it very slowly. And it comes together. Trust me, it does come together. And I think what's very important as well is the approach and the attitude you take. Those two things can make a huge difference to how you feel in public and how you engage with your audience. And if you take away nothing else from today, I would say to you, preparation, practice, pause, and also the most important thing is to be yourself. and to work with what you have and to try and enjoy it. So there you go. I'd like to say thank you very much for spending your lunchtime with me. If any of you have any questions or any comments, just bear with me for one moment. There we go. If any of you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to ask me, if you can just unmute, maybe put your hand up and unmute yourself, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Or anybody has anything they'd like to add or like to say? Oh, thanks very much from Tom. You're welcome. I'm saying it, you're welcome to what's in the chat room there. No? Is everybody all right? Everybody, nobody has anything to say or anything to ask, or maybe any experiences to share? You're a very quiet lot from Jimmy.
I have a question, Clodagh. Hi.
Absolutely.
Hi.
Work away.
So just have you any tips on how to handle, not necessarily a troublemaker, but maybe just somebody who's making a little bit of noise? I suppose in my area, people being interrupted by their phones is a big concern, because it not only interrupts them, the people around them, but it also, would interrupt me and the day and the kind of the flow of the session. So any tips on that? Usually I just ask people to turn them off at the beginning of the session, and if they need to do something on their phone, just to let me know, give me a nod or whatever, and I know they're out for a few minutes, but invariably the phones go off during the day anyway.
Yeah, well, that's what I would say to you, to be very clear in the beginning that you're setting the ground rules, and that you're saying, this is no phones, keep them on silent or whatever. Take a break at 11 o'clock. Absolutely, you can keep them on. I mean, if there's a doctor in the house, that's a different kettle of fish. But by and large, you have to be very strong, and you have to be very firm about it. And if a phone does go off, just politely but firmly say to the person, Brigid, would you mind turning off your phone? Or if you need to take that call, could you step outside? But I did mention at the beginning that phones need to be off for the session. It's unfair on everybody. We want to try and work through this as easily and as quickly as we can, or whatever. You need to be quite strong about it, and you do need to call a person out if the phone goes off, but in a pleasant manner, but firm.
I know sometimes I think, oh gosh, you're a bit of a cow about that, just let it go, but it does interrupt the whole flow.
Yeah, no, don't be a cow about it. No, you're not a cow about it.
Right.
Absolutely. It's like me asking you at the beginning, because I needed to see you. It's really hard if you don't see people, to try and be enthusiastic, and you're thinking, oh God, I don't know if anybody's looking at me. They're all making tea somewhere, or they're, they've gone to walk the dog, and they're going to appear back in 2 minutes and turn their video on. So if all I can do is ask, if people choose not to, there's not a lot I can do about it on something like this. But if you're in a room with people, or even if you are on Zoom like this, no, you're not a cow. You're setting the rules, you're in charge. So just be a bit confident and firm about it, is what I'd say. That.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? No? Are we, oh, I'm sorry. Just let me check this. Oh, right, sorry, I'm just checking the chat room as well to see, just myself, even when I'm doing this, I know people, the habit is to put things into the chat room, which is fine, but I actually like to hear the person ask the question. And again, it comes back to about being interactive with your audience on this platform, which isn't always easy or always comfortable. But I know for me, that's what I try to do. And also particularly if I'm working, for instance, with small groups, you need to try and make it intimate, and you need to try and make it safe so that people feel comfortable to be able to talk. Or for example, if I'm doing, a presentation workshop, I might ask them to do something a bit silly or a bit daft. So they need to feel safe in that environment. So that's also what you try. I'm getting distracted now by that. That's also what you have to try and create with a group as well. Is there anything else anybody would like to ask? Caroline, I need to ask you this. Somebody asked about a recording of the presentation.
Yeah, so all recordings of the Lunch and Learns are actually on the website. So this one should be up in about a week's time.
That's great. Thank you very much. Just somebody.
No worries.
Yeah. Tom, do you have a question?
Yeah, well, I have a comment and just a suggestion, just what I do. I mean, first of all, in terms of voice, I still don't like the sound of my own voice, but I just tell myself, my routine is to tell myself I like it. And I've never met anybody who likes the sound of their own voice. But what I do a lot of training, and in the old world, when we could get into a room, there'd be 8, 9, 10 people in the room. But online, I couldn't recreate that, so I've limited it to 4 people. And what I do is I do the slides, the kind, not the boring stuff, but the formal stuff. I video in advance, and I email the slides to them maybe a week in advance, so they've gone through all that. And I use the Zoom call as a phone call, really, and a discussion. And that's the only way I could get the interaction going.
I agree with you, Tom. It's really hard, because that's what I've just kind of, I would have been going out to companies to, you know, to various groups to talk as well. And like I said in the beginning, you can't beat being in the room with somebody. So that's actually what I've done too. My groups are 4 people, not any bigger, because it's to try and recreate that intimate atmosphere. And also, I would say too, that's good about the slides. I think sometimes when people are presenting on Zoom or on whatever your platform is, some people are a bit obsessed about the PowerPoint and the slides anyway. That's a whole other story. But be very judicious in how you use them and think about it. And you may not need all those slides, you know, 2 slides might be enough, really. Or think about maybe using even a short piece of video or a piece of audio. Think of different ways to try and engage them. But that's a really interesting thing, to send out the information so they've looked at it and now you can work as a group on it. Recently, I attended a meeting like this, and a woman was giving a presentation. I think she used maybe 3 slides, right? But what she did was she didn't even talk about the slides. They were images, but the images matched exactly and fitted in with what she was talking about. So while they were there in the background, she just chatted away about something, and it brought something really lovely to it, but it wasn't intrusive. You know, now I know you may need to have to use slides if you're dealing with statistics or figures or things like that, but try and think a little bit about outside of the box about how, if you have to use material like that, how you use it. Something else now came into my head, and I've lost my train of thought. Oh, your voice. Yes, just keep telling yourself that you do like your voice. And the thing about the other thing I'll tell you is that if you're presenting, or even if you're doing a radio interview or something like that, please listen back at yourself and look back at yourself. Trust me, nobody likes doing it. I'm in this business for 30 years and I still don't like doing it. In fact, I put it off because I know for a fact I've spoken too quickly, I should have slowed down. We're overly critical. So if you are looking back at yourself, it's how you learn is the first thing. But the second thing is, look back with kindness. Look back with kindness. Don't be too critical. You know, that's really important, but it is important to look back and to listen back, because you'd be surprised how much you will learn from doing that. Are we good? Anybody else have anything they'd like to say or like to add?
Yeah, I have a question.
Aruna, hi.
Yeah. So, like, whenever we are, doing this presentation online for an online audience, typically the challenge is, you don't know, like, what the audience.
Arun, sorry, may I stop you there? Your audio is not very good. You just
is it better now?
Yes, that's better. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, like, whenever we are doing this online presentation over Zoom or any other platform like this, typically we don't understand much, like, what the audience is feeling, whether they are really getting what we are trying to convey to them. So what's the best way of engaging an audience, like whenever we are communicating over this online online platform, because all you have is like your voice and then your body language. That is what is going to, like, make them stay or go away from the meeting. So I would like to know some tips from your end.
That's very hard, Arunya, because you don't really have a captive audience. They're not in the room, because if somebody's in the room and they get up and they walk out, it just seems like it being a bit rude. Whereas on Zoom like this, they can come and they can go. So part of it is you have to trust the decency of your audience, unfortunately. And the other part is, I think that's why I ask people as well just to turn on their video so I can see them. So it's like you can, you know, see the whites of their eyes. So it might be a little bit more difficult for them to leave if you can see them. Again, you can't force people to do that, I'm afraid. You just really have to work within the confines of what you have. But you could also, maybe depending on what your presentation is or what you're doing, is ask for feedback, maybe in the terms of, you know, emails or to contact us. We'd appreciate you to do that. So they're the kind of things that you have to try and do, but I'm afraid I don't have one stock answer for you for that. Brigid, did you have a question?
Hi, yeah, it was actually just an observation, really. This is the first webinar presentation I've attended online where there was absolutely no PowerPoint. So it was just kind of amazing to see it, first of all, and to see the difference, because in person, if you have a PowerPoint, it might be on a screen that might be big or small, but you're still very much, you know, a focal point of the presentation. Whereas online, if a presentation is shared, then the presentation takes center stage in a way, and you're like a little video in the corner. So I just wanted to, it was kind of just something that I really hadn't thought about as much before, and just the difference to see you then all the time center stage and really seeing your body language more than, you know, it would if you were presenting alongside a PowerPoint online. So
that's interesting. And also, I spoke as well about people finding their style, and it takes time to find your style. And this way of communicating, while it's brilliant, it absolutely is not natural, and it is a bit odd. And you have to find your way. You have to find your way around it. For me, I said in the beginning, that's why with a large group like this, I like to stand, because it makes me feel like I am presenting and that I am using my body language and that I'm using the whole lot to try and bring something to the audience. I find when I'm with one or two people, it's okay, but I've done some work like this where I'm sitting and I just feel, for me, I feel constricted and I feel I can't express myself properly. So for people, it's really to find your own style and to find what you're comfortable with. You know, and with the slides, as I said, just to think about it when you're using. You may not need to use as many as you think you need to use, or you may be using them because you don't want to stand in front of an audience for 20 minutes because it'll just think, oh, sweet God, I'd rather stick pins in my eyes and do that. But you know what, give it a try. Maybe do it for 10 minutes, you know, or maybe do it for 5 minutes, then some slides, then come back. Think about the way that you want to put your presentation together. That's what I would say about that. Do we have anything else? Anybody have anything else they'd like to oh, Clodagh.
Hi, Clodagh. The question I have is, I sometimes have a tendency to talk really quickly, usually when I'm nervous. The breathing that you went through, I think that obviously will help me before I go into something. But if I find myself, you know, going off there as if I'm in a race to get what I need to see finished, do you have any kind of techniques or tips for me to kind of slow down?
The first thing is, you know, you speak too fast, which is brilliant, right? So you have to be really conscious about slowing it down. And trust me, you can't really be too slow. I think people it's like that pause. People get a bit panicked and they think, oh God, I have to get to the end of it. You don't have to get to the end of it. So a way to help, I don't know, you may do this already when you're speaking. I always have my notes with me, you know, learn things off by heart. I know what I want to say and I'm very sure of what I want to say, but I always have my notes with me. I don't know whether you do as well.
Yeah.
From a script. If you're speaking from a script, know it inside out. You don't have to learn it off, but know it inside out. But mark it. Do you know what I mean by mark it?
No.
Your script. So I'm not going to be able to show you on this really now. No, you won't be able to see it. So for example, your sentence, mark where you're maybe going to hit a word, you know, physically, you know, have an upstroke.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the sentence, put your downstroke. Physically mark your script. So that will help you to slow down because they're like big full stops. All right.
Okay.
That will help you. But if you are in the middle of a presentation and you're talking and you're chatting away and you're getting really quick and you think, oh dear God, I'm going to lose where I am now and I don't know where I am. Actually stop. Stop. Just stop. Smile. Take one of those breaths. Move a piece of paper. Who knows what you're doing? Nobody knows what you're doing. But you're taking a nice breath in and you're calm and you're going to stay nice and calm and then you're going to look up and you're going to start slowly again. I can't overestimate the use of that breath. It's really, really important, Clodagh, because I'd swear, I may be wrong, but if you're talking too quickly, that you're talking from here. So you need to be open and you need to be conscious about it, but that just comes with time and it comes with practice. But if you're in the middle of something, just stop. You know, just stop, drink of water, put it down again, as I said, move your script, look up, smile, take a breath, and start again. You don't have to keep going.
Okay.
Pause comes in, you can stop. I think that might help. But just because you're conscious of the fact that you speak too quickly, it's just a matter of working on it. And don't, again, it's like layering all the things we spoke about today. Even if you do it a little bit in your first talk or when you're presenting, well, then you've done it. And then it'll be a bit longer the next time. So work on it slowly. Don't try to do it all in a big mad rush. I hope that helps. Okay.
It did, yeah, no, it's really helpful. Thanks, Clodagh.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome, Anya. It's just another note in there. Oh, that's Anya. Hi, Anya. Okay. Does anybody else have anything to say or any comments or any other questions? Are we okay? Good. All right. Well, listen, thank you very much.
I have a question. Sorry. Hello.
Hi, Aruna.
Yeah. I have an additional question. So, like when is it always important to rehearse the presentation and always stick to that, or is it better to go along with the flow? Like maybe if there is some diversion, should we accept the diversion, or should we always stick to our own script which we have in mind?
Well, that's a very interesting question. That's one of the reasons why. Now, again, everybody's style is different, but I often say to people, if you learn it off and there is a diversion or there's a train of thought comes in, you can kind of panic a bit because you think, oh God, if I go off script, am I going to get back again? Whereas if you know, Aruna, if you know your script and your presentation inside out and you're comfortable with it and there is a diversion or a question or somebody asks you something, yes, it feels comfortable, absolutely. Do take that tangent because you don't, you know, and then you can answer the question or you think, oh gosh, this is just suddenly thought, I've just suddenly thought of this. What's very interesting here is, and then come back to the point you made. So I would say yes. And to do that, you need to be very comfortable with your script. Again, it just comes to knowing it inside out, but knowing that, yes, I can divert a little bit and I can come back. And again, that's practice. But yes, you don't have to stick rigidly. You know, the thing is, as well as to try and be comfortable with it. And if you're comfortable with it, well, then you will have the luxury of being able to divert and to come back to where you need it to be. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Fine. Good. All right. Thank you very much. Listen, thank you very much, everybody, and so many people to show up. It's lovely to meet you. My new website has just gone up. It's www.speakeasycommunications.ie, and if you want to contact me, you can contact me through my website. I want to say, huge thank you to the Republic of Work. They've all been brilliant, particularly Caroline and particularly Angie. Thank you very much for your help. And I hope that some of our paths may cross at some time in the future. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for spending lunch with me. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Clodagh.
you.
Natalia, you're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Clodagh. Bye all.
You're welcome. Thank you. Great. Thanks a million, everybody.